following, and also a colder feel as the front slowly edges its way east and southeast. Rain appearing into West Wales and Cornwall by the afternoon, but ahead of that, 18, possibly 19 Celsius for the Midlands and the southeast. A cloudier day to come on Friday as this weather front lingers across many parts of England, Wales, eastern Scotland. Still some sunshine in the southeast, not feeling quite as warm. Certainly not feeling as warm for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although sunshine does tend to return. Into Saturday and Sunday, we've got that lingering cloud across many areas, but it will be mostly dry.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Ed Miliband has reportedly led the revolt inside of Downing Street to stop US troops using our bases. Is the Prime Minister really in charge anymore, or is it a future leader like Ed Miliband, perhaps? That's interesting because the Daily Express is saying weak, weak, weak. That is Kemi Badenoch's charge at the Prime Minister as he fails, of course, to act swiftly on the Middle East crisis. We've got loads more on that, and of course, Shabana Mahmood's new reforms coming up tomorrow. That'll be next.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benevan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Right, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. This, of course, is Patrick Christys' Tonight Late edition. He's taken a little break, but breaking right now.
If we didn't hit within 2 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon. If we didn't do the B-2 attack a number of months ago, they would have a nuclear weapon. And when crazy people have nuclear weapons, bad things happen.
Well, as the Iran war heads into its 6th day, President Donald Trump has told the world if he didn't launch the attack within 2 weeks, the mullahs will have got hold of a nuclear weapon. But how's it going for Keir Starmer?
I was not prepared to do on Saturday was for the UK to join a war unless I was satisfied there was a lawful basis and a viable, thought-through plan. That remains my position.
Sounds like Ed Miliband might have been pulling the strings, actually, doesn't it? The special relationship continues to plunge to new lows as Sir Keir Starmer hits back at President Trump over the war in Iran. I'm sure that's going to do a world of good for the special relationship, isn't it? And it turns out it could be because of...
But am I tough enough? Tough enough? Hell yes, I'm tough enough.
Hell yes, I'm tough enough. Yes, the Telegraph is reporting it was Ed Miliband, of all people, who led the cabinet revolt against support for Donald Trump's war in Iran. So, was it Ed who ended the special relationship? Wouldn't that be ironic? In other news...
This is the result of the extraordinary open border experiment conducted by the last Conservative government.
And a GB News exclusive, the latest of Shabana Mahmood's migrant crackdowns. Foreign criminals will be refused entry or even have their visas cancelled in a crackdown on those posing a threat to the British public. And finally...
We are, as I said before, Mr. Speaker, committed to tackling all forms of hatred and division, including, of course, Islamophobia in all of its forms.
Yes, The Sun is reporting Labour has watered down its controversial Islamophobia definition to head off a free speech backlash. And look who's joining me to talk about all of this stuff. It's Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, journalist and broadcaster, Nina Mishkov, and GB News contributor and comedian, Steve N. Allen. But before we get cracking, let's get your news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you very much. The top stories. President Donald Trump has held a roundtable event this evening and spoke about the Iran war, saying if we didn't hit within 2 weeks, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon. He also said the US military are in very good shape.
This is very important, and we're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15. And we're going to continue to do well. We have the greatest military in the world by far. And that was a tremendous threat to us for many years. 47 years they've been killing our people and killing people from all over the world. And I think we have great support. And I think if we didn't do it first, they would have done it to Israel and give us a shot if that was possible.
Israel's military says it has begun a new wave of strikes targeting military infrastructure in Tehran. The Israeli military says it's also focusing on targeting Hezbollah infrastructure in Beirut. Lebanon's health ministry says 3 people have been killed and 6 are injured after Israeli strikes on Beirut this evening, it says. This is footage of the 91st Division troops in 4 defensive positions in southern Lebanon. The IDF says earlier today the Israeli Air Force completed wide-scale strikes targeting Iranian terror regime targets in western and central Iran. Dozens of assets belonging to the regime's ballistic missile array were dismantled in the strikes. Meanwhile, the US Defense Secretary earlier confirmed a US submarine sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean with a torpedo. Sri Lanka's Deputy Foreign Minister said at least 80 people were killed in the strike, 32 were rescued. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has said in a speech this evening ground troops are not part of the plan for the Iran operation at this time. Household energy bills are forecast to rise by 10% this summer, experts have warned. The warning comes from specialist Cornwall Insight as natural gas costs soars on wholesale markets due to the war in Iran. While the regulator Ofgem has already ruled on a 7% reduction in the typical annual dual-fuel bill from April, Cornwall Insight's latest price predictions see a 160 lift in bills. And Scottish Labour MP Joni Reid says she has never seen anything to make her suspect her husband has broken any law after her spouse David Taylor was arrested on suspicion of spying for China along with 2 other men. Earlier, the Metropolitan Police said the men, aged 39, 43 and 68, had been arrested in London and Wales as part of a counter-terrorism policing investigation under the National Security Act. The Met added there's no imminent or direct threat to the public and all 3 suspects are being held in custody. Reid, who represents East Kilbride and Strathaven, said she's not part of her husband's business activities. Those aren't the latest headlines for now. It's over to Alex.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Late Edition. Let's go through Thursday's front pages. The Metro, Trump's war goes global. Now, for those of you listening on radio, there's quite a descriptive image here. It's 2, I think, Iranian children next to what looks like a massive missile lodged in the ground. It's something you'd see in like a cartoon. It's that crazy. The Telegraph. Miliband-led revolt to Trump's Iran war. We're going to get right into this one because I think it shows, it says something about what's going on behind closed doors in the cabinet. The Mirror. MP, I've never suspected my husband, of course, that is in regards to the China spying allegations that came out today. The Express. Week with a picture of Kemi Badenoch there in the House of Commons. Of course, this is to do with the war in Iran. The Sun. Greek cops wanted to 50k to Maguire bribe. The Guardian. At least 87 dead as the US sinks Iranian ship near Sri Lanka. The iPaper. War zone widens as US sub torpedoes warship off Sri Lanka. The Daily Mail. Labour ensnared in China spy probe. The Times. Allies round on weak UK. Right, well, I've got my fantastic panel with me here tonight. Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatives, journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov, and GB News contributor and comedian Steve N. Allen. Right, shall we start with the Daily Telegraph?
Let's get in,
Steve,
yeah.
Welcome to the show.
It's nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you. Shall we talk about Ed?
Yeah.
One of the most popular members of the Labour Party, by the way, when polled.
Yep, low bar.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Good point. He is seemingly alongside here, what the Telegraph reporting, alongside Yvette Cooper and Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor. The 3 of them seemingly are stopping John Healey, the Defence Secretary, and perhaps even the Prime Minister from making a call on Iran.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because I was absolutely buying the story. All the discussion we heard about it was the Keir Starmer has international law coursing through his veins. Cut him in half, it'll say it in small font, you'd imagine. That he's even there's a biography or an autobiography or something when someone says that every single thing about him is defined by international law. So when you say this guy's obsessed with international law, that's his worldview. This event comes along, and is it a legal move to actually attack Iran? Fair enough. I totally bought that because with Starmer, you know what he's dealing with. If this is Ed Miliband, what's the play at play here? What's his angle? Because you don't think Ed Miliband is absolutely obsessed with the idea of international law. That'll be the thing stopping him from trying to work with America on this one. I think this is a whole new discussion that needs to be had now.
He hates Trump. He hates Trump.
As simple as that.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Is it Trump? Is it what they call Trump derangement syndrome? Yeah. Is that what that is?
I think
or is it just that he disagrees
has an aggressive form of Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you not think there's also a whiff of something going through the Labour Party, which is terror at turning into Tony Blair? Yeah. I think there's a lot of that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Of all the things that Tony Blair did, he's only known for one thing, so they don't want to fall down that same slope.
You don't have to have Trump derangement syndrome not to want to question what Trump says, because he changes his mind so often. He's so mercurial. He'll say one thing one day and change his mind completely the next, then change it back again the day after. So, you know, you have to approach this with a degree of caution. And the trouble is when people start mentioning war and, you know, guns and things, a lot of men particularly get testosterone to the head. They get the red mist before them, and it's all kind of boys' own stuff. I mean, I was listening to the White House talking about this, Caroline Leavitt today, talking about, you know, our sort of, you know, she was talking about in terms of our glorious warriors, and, you know, and there's Hegseth saying, oh, you know, they're toast and they know it. It's like a bad script from a B movie that, you know, that one of those American movies.
It is very American language.
Yeah,
I mean, even Epic Fury is quite American.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
But that's how they do things over. That's their culture,
That's okay.
isn't it?
But we don't have to necessarily buy into that.
This is a couple of oddities here. Firstly, if the Telegraph report is right, and the coalition against supporting the Americans was Miliband, Reeves and Cooper, that's an unusual ideological coalition.
It is.
Reeves is towards the centre. Miliband's on the left. This isn't the kind of obvious three lefties in the cabinet by any manner or means.
With Reeves, I just wonder whether she's worried that she's got to spend more money. I think that much she might have got.
I need fiscal headroom. Do not drop a bomb.
And the other thing is, we don't have an army. We don't have ships and submarines and aircraft carriers that work.
I mean, what I would have liked.
We don't have kit.
Well, what I would have, I think, liked the British government to do is to have spend more time speaking to Donald Trump than international human rights lawyers. And an issue that I think the Prime Minister should have raised is, what's the end game, what's the exit plan? You know, you seem to know how to start this. How on earth are you going to end it?
I think he said that.
I've got some reservations about that. But the oddity they've now fallen into is there isn't much of a difference now between joining in for defensive purposes and joining in for offensive purposes, because since the base in Cyprus has been hit, there's no difference here at all, really.
Well, the interesting, just to move this along slightly, because I don't want to keep on going around the same ground, the other person that sticks out to me that we haven't spoke much about, because he's not democratically elected, is Lord Hermer. He is sort of what I call international law chief of the government. I think he just runs over to Keir Starmer when he sees something he doesn't like and goes, it's international law says so, Keir. I mean, you know, he is a forensic lawyer, the Prime Minister, Steve, so he should know if this is right or wrong.
Do you not think, though, that in some ways Hermer is the... You know, when the scene in Lord of the Rings, when Gollum and Schmeagol are having a chat with each other? That's the version of Keir Starmer that he sees. It's because we're stupid.
Yeah, that's very
brilliant.
You're not the only one who does impressions.
Yeah, no, I love that. Maybe we should do a Trump-Schmeagol sort of crossover, actually.
We can work on that.
Fantastic work, Schmeagol. I think you've done a brilliant job in the ring.
We once says it. So I think there's that. If anything, he's just like the copy of that part of Starmer that you can have that interaction with, which probably reinforces it. He just appears on the shoulder and talks about international law. But the fact that Ed Miliband might be the head of this suddenly makes me think maybe we're wrong in thinking it's an obsession with international law.
Well, interesting, because, Nina, I'll put this to you. I guess there's been a lot of talk since the by-election result, which was pretty horrendous, Keir Starmer being on constant scandal after scandal. I mean, he's survived so many scandals now. A scandal can't even take him down anymore. He's almost immune to it. But we are looking ahead, of course, at local elections, aren't we? And that's the date sort of touted as the potential, you know, turnover for Prime Minister. And maybe Ed's thinking, I don't want to inherit a war. Maybe these people are thinking, I don't want to have a war to deal with.
Well, I don't think anybody wants a war, do they? I mean,
John Healey's pro. John Healey's pro.
Well, he's got to have. He's a defence secretary. He's got to be pro-war. I mean, you know, you've got to have, or be at least practical and pragmatic about it. He's got to. You know, a war is going to exist, and that's that. I just want to say quickly, I saw a strapline on Sky News this evening.
Who? Never heard of it.
Sorry, that said that the drone that landed on RAF Akrotiri was not from Iran.
I think it was Hezbollah, but it was Iranian-made drone.
Yeah.
It was an Iranian drone, but fired by Hezbollah, I believe. That's my understanding.
Anyway, OK, fine, yes, that's what I want to say. Yes. So what was the question you asked me? Sorry.
I can't remember now. I think it was a potential future leader that might be sitting in the cabinet and won't want to inherit...
Sorry, Neil, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't think anybody wants war, and I think you're quite right when you talked about harking back to Tony Blair and the Iraq War, because that was such a seismic event, and it's still lingering.
But the issue now is there is a war. This war is going to go on. What are we going to do about it? Right? We don't have the ability to stop this. So the question is, what role, if anything, do you want in it? It's not, you know, whether you want the war to happen or not. Well, it is happening.
Well, Mark, let me put this to you, because of course earlier in the show we talked about the Ramadan event that Keir Starmer spoke out the other night, where he actually spoke about Iraq. He spoke about Gaza. I can't remember if he spoke about Afghanistan, but he was flaunting his anti-war credentials, wasn't he? He was saying, I voted against the war in Iraq, just so you all know, which said something to me, perhaps where the Prime Minister might lie in this.
Yes, that's exactly right, and it worried me greatly. I thought it was, I mean, put aside that I disagree with what the Prime Minister said, I'm more hawkish than he is, but I thought a religious event was a completely inappropriate place to do that. It'd be a bit like visiting a school and, you know, talking about foreign policy or something. And that was an oil and water mix that I thought was wholly inappropriate. If you want to attend a civil event or a religious event, keep it civil and religious, not highly politically charged.
Let's talk about the front page of the Times, shall we? Because this is quite a damning headline here from them. Cypriot allies round on weak UK. Cypriot commissioner criticises Britain's defence of the island. US submarine sinks Iranian warships off the coast of Sri Lanka. As far as what I can tell, Steve, is that we gave a guarantee, I think, under international law, believe it or not, the treaty to the Cypriots that we would defend that island, and we are seemingly only just coming round to the realisation we should do that. Where are all these international laws when you need them?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing about international law, is that law in general, I suppose, you can pick and choose the ones that back up the thing you want to happen anyway. But, you know, we are slowly sending over a ship over there. Allow 28 days for delivery. It's ridiculous.
I get Amazon deliveries quicker than that.
From the people who brought you, you can have a doctor's appointment in 3.5 weeks. It's amazing, isn't it? We're really getting stuff done. Maybe I'm just basking in a bath of hindsight, but it feels like surely we could have predicted we'll be involved in this anyway.
Yes.
If America and Israel go and do something, it's not as if Iran would have been like, death to, oh, not them, they didn't use their bases. Do you know what I mean? There's an ideology there that we were going to be on one side of it, so maybe you could have been more of an active part of it, and then you wouldn't have the allies saying that we're so weak.
But what kit could we send?
Just bases. Just use of bases.
Use Diego Garcia.
Well,
that's what their request was.
I think the theory is that in not being part of the aggression, then that, as he said in Parliament, I want to make sure to protect British citizens. That is my first priority. And by not, you say, oh, well, it gets to the stage where they'll, you know, Iran versus the West, as it were. But at that point, there's a defining point. Are we part of the attack? And we weren't part of the attack.
Well, I think we'll be punished as if we were the attack.
I'll just put this to you, Mark, because we did come under fire from a Hezbollah-made drone, from what we understand, that was, a Hezbollah drone made by Iran, of course, allies with Hezbollah and funded by Iran. So that I see that as an attack on us. And to be fair to Keir Starmer, he was consistent up until that point, where he said, look, we're not going to let the US use our bases. Then we got hit. And at that point in time, we're in the war whether we like it or not.
Yeah,
and I feel like when we don't respond, we do get this stuff like on the front page of the Times, people saying we're weak.
I saw a couple of days ago an interesting tweet that said, you know, here's a list of the Islamic countries that are supporting the USA, you know, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, whatever, UAE. Here's a list of the Islamic countries that are not, the UK and France. And what is extraordinary here is actually the coalition supporting America is extraordinarily wide. I can't think of any coalition that America's been able to put together that the UK has not been a full part of previously. You would assume we would be an early adopter of this, historically. We are an incredibly late adopter. Iran is firing at everyone right now, almost indiscriminately. I mean, we're getting missiles landing in Turkey, for God's sake, right? So they're now involving NATO members. And I think it would have been naive in the extreme, as Steve was saying just a few moments ago, for us to assume, oh, if we step back from allowing the use of Diego Garcia, then the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard will make sure that no British civilian or base is touched. We were bound to be in the firing line.
Yeah, well, they did chant death to England in his Friday prayers many, many times, and they'd actually openly declared war on us decades ago, so we were already at war with them for all intents and purposes. And I think the thing is, Neely, of course, you were talking about defending British people, but British soldiers are British people. They've got families in Cyprus, so you can argue for a defensive war, but we have to still look after them too.
Absolutely, and now that the base has been attacked, of course we do. Then because we are now defending an attack, whereas before we would have been being part of an attack that was not, of course, not justified. It's not that at all. But no, I mean, just like the Iraq war, as far as I'm concerned, it was just one of those, you know. Spurious moments. But the thing is, it's very easy for Australia and Canada to say, yes, they are not literally in the firing line. Are they? They're far enough away.
Well, they're not a major military power. Well, we're a minor military power now, I guess.
Well, I mean, Australia has got a, quite a hefty...
But the oddity about this, we've now been attacked. This wasn't from the UK government. I think it was from an Israeli spokesman who said, we are now going to take an enhanced forward defensive posture. Well, that's an offensive posture.
I love it when I see politicians come up with clever ways to say the most obvious thing is we're going to bomb them.
That's where we're at now. We're now pretending this is an enhanced forward defensive posture, which is an offensive posture.
I just think it's so embarrassing for Britain, and I can't imagine what our troops are thinking. You know, people who've put their lives on the line to defend our country, who have come under attack, and then it's taken the Prime Minister days to say we're going to send a battleship, and we've got Greece and France coming to our rescue. Oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. It's so embarrassing. It's so humiliating for us. That's my opinion anyway. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to bring you...
This is the result of the extraordinary open border experiment conducted by the last Conservative government.
Yes, we can bring you a GB News exclusive, the latest of Shabana Mahmood's big crackdown on migrants. Foreign criminals are going to be refused entry or have their visas cancelled in a crackdown on those posing a threat to the British public. I'll bring you all the details next.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Of course, they're not a nuisance. We forget that when Jeremy King opened the Ivy and I opened Silly Fish, the phones didn't exist. So, you know, we've got to move with the times. If you don't want them in, it's very simple. I've just been to 3 pubs around here to connect to the internet to speak to you guys in Victoria, and they don't have internet. They don't have Wi-Fi. So, you know, if you don't want them in, then it's easy to tell them not to come. But there is a downside because they are quite influential. That's why they're called influencers. And some of them have got millions of followers. You want them in your restaurants. It's free advertising. I totally disagree, actually. I welcome influencers. I've just opened Aldo's Pizza in Bromley inside the Royal Bell Hotel, and we welcome, you know, without influencers, it's instant advertising, and it's, you know, the social media is what we have to embrace. I've got a 19 and a 17-year-old at home. If I said any different, they will probably never speak to me again.
Yeah. But what if it drives your other customers away, regular customers who might come in a lot? Usually these influencers only come in, do a couple of pictures, and they probably never to be seen again.
Well, you know, if that's the case, then you need a security guy to tell them not to come in. But it's, you know, it's far and few between. I don't know what the best thing to do is. I don't particularly mind. A lot of restaurateurs can't stand it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Shall we talk about some of the exclusive story here that we've got regarding the Home Secretary's new visa crackdown, because she's, as they're going to say tomorrow, foreign criminals will be refused entry to the United Kingdom or have their visas cancelled in a crackdown on those posing a threat to the British public. Well, under new rules introduced, will be tomorrow, any foreign offender who has received a suspended sentence of at least 12 months, important detail, either at home or abroad, will see their entry clearance refused or revoked, regardless of when the crime took place. And it almost begs the question, why weren't we doing this in the first place, Steve? Why didn't we not do this before? And actually, do we owe a little bit of praise to the Home Secretary here for doing something that I think is very sensible?
Definitely. I also like to run these things through a test, a little mental test, a thought experiment. If I woke up after a big bang on the head and couldn't remember anything, and someone told me, oh, this country's got a policy where anyone who's been sentenced to more than 12 months is not allowed a visa, I'd be like, oh, that seems like, OK, yeah. So I wouldn't... some people might be upset about the change. Oh, why are you bringing this in? There'll be loads of people being interviews saying that this is dehumanising left, right and centre. If this were already the case, you'd absolutely buy it, because it makes a lot of sense. You compare it to America. Prince Harry's nearly going to get thrown out because he mentioned in a book he did some drugs once. So it's not like we're the only
I did think of that, actually. That did come to my mind. But, I mean, obviously, I think those sorts of rules are there to deter drug lords, really, aren't they? People who are really bad addicts.
Are you calling Prince Harry a drugs lord?
No, well, because he was allowed in. He was allowed in, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got away with that.
Check and catch me out on that litigious nonsense. Nina, yes. I guess these crackdowns, I have to be honest, I've been one of those people calling for stuff like this for time and time again here, and I'm not a hypocrite. I welcome them. I think they're good news. They are sensible. It's common sense. As Steve was saying, if you went to America, you went to Dubai, you went to anywhere else in the world, frankly, this would just be common sense, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And I said from the beginning, when she was first appointed, and she was tough, and she walked into the first meeting and said, anybody who doesn't agree with that, my methods, there's the door now. And she's stomped around the place, and she's getting results. And she's gone to Denmark to see what's worked for them, and the visa law and all of that she's got from there.
Yeah.
So great that she's finding out what works and what doesn't work. And she the thing is, she seems to have not just the will, but the sort of the ability to push things through.
I have to give her credit, because I know that the Labour backbenchers aren't going to like this, and her party isn't going to like this. And I think there's a lot of spirit there that we have to admire, doing that in a party which is not going to go down well. However, Mark, you were saying earlier on that you don't think this goes far enough, and actually should be anyone who's got a custodial sentence should be...
that would be my view. I mean, I don't want to be too pedantic about it. I agree with you. This is a move in the right direction. I agree with Steve that it's pretty jaw-dropping that this isn't the prevailing law already. My one nuance would be, I think if you arrive here and you wish to hang around, stay in Britain, potentially for the rest of your life, we expect basically immaculate behaviour.
Yes.
I wouldn't kick you out of the country for a speeding ticket or something like that, or a very minor offence, but I would kick you out if you commit a crime and are successfully prosecuted for that crime that could carry any custodial sentence, any custodial sentence. If it couldn't, and it's just a matter of, well, that's a £20 fine and 3 hours of community service, OK, I won't hang you for that. But any crime that could put you in prison. And 12 months is quite a lot. You could get into quite a nasty fight and get 6 months suspended sentence.
Yes.
Well, that would also put you on my deport list. The other thing is, she says that she will strip them of financial support and their state-funded accommodation. Hurrah for that. I'm all in favour of that. But you've obviously got to get them out of the country, right? I mean, so it's no great use to us if rather than being in state-funded education, they're now living in a tent on Hyde Park, for sake of argument. So the bit that nobody has cracked yet, largely because of our international legal commitments, is how do you get these people on a plane and get them out? That's the part of the system amongst many that is really not working at all.
Yeah, well, G788 here on Your Say says no way it will be enforced, smoke and mirrors. And there is a feeling people have about these sorts of things. They feel that politicians speak a big game, Steve. They don't deliver.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big risk. There is the possibility. Because there's so many stages that this could fall at. So I know she's done some clever stuff with getting some of it through without requiring Parliament to have a vote on it. But the stuff that does get to have a vote, well, we know what happened with welfare reform, so there's a strong chance that that could happen. Then you've got to get through to the level of people actually administering this as the law. And even if they do administer a law, what do you then do with people that you find have fallen foul of it? So, yeah, I mean, I don't think this has solved all of the issues. But still, you're right, you've got to give credit where it's due, and this is a place to give credit. This is moving in the right direction. This is not a politician saying, well, we couldn't possibly look into this. At least the right words are pointing in the right way.
Yeah, I certainly welcome it, that's for sure. A lot of people here writing in, Nina, saying, well, this isn't going to do anything to stop the small boat migrants because we don't know their criminal backgrounds. And in some cases, there are countries around the world that don't have good record systems of their courts and their behaviour, and therefore we'll never know, and actually it's not going to really change.
Exactly, but there's also what she's putting in place hopefully will be a deterrent, because she's also said that if you come here, it'll be 20 years until you can get citizenship.
Yep.
Also, that if you come here as a refugee, your case will be examined every 30 months. And if the country of origin is deemed by our country to be safe, back you go and out you go. So there's no guaranteed soft landing here. So she's trying to sort of cut everybody off at the pass.
The other bit I'd like to see, really, right across the asylum system, is to shift the burden of proof and shift the obligations. So I think you're right, Alex. If you're kind of coming in and you say, well, I'm from this and that country, how are we going to check their criminal records? I think you need to put more of a burden on the person applying. Rather than it to be for the British state to prove that they are wrong or have got a criminal record, I think there needs to be much more of a burden on them to prove that they're in the clear.
Yeah.
Difficult to do, not perfect, but I want the applicant to prove their case to the British state, not the British state has to prove its deportation case to the applicant.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the Shabana Mahmood is doing a lot at the moment, just to pivot onto one small thing before we move on to another story, because she's also announced that they're thinking of maybe upping the limit of the money they'll give you to leave the country. The 30 grand, I think, is being floated around. Is that the right move, Steve?
Do you know what? It splits me right down the middle of my brain. Part of me realises the maths. If it costs more to process someone than it does to just give them the money and sort it, that makes sense. Then the other part, that emotional part, just goes like, oh, I just feel so wrong. But I think if you end up mathematically with more money and fewer people causing problems in the UK, then actually you've got to take the win rather than just being all emotional about it.
Indeed. Nina, what do you think of that?
I agree with that. Yep, just whatever it takes, really.
OK. Yeah. If you switch off welfare, I think you sort a lot of this problem out. You get vast numbers of people leaving voluntarily. People are looking over at the States and sort of talking about how Trump's forcing people out. But for every one that the Trump administration's removed, 4 have gone voluntarily. And if you switch off welfare payments, I think you will find a lot of people just go. You won't need to be rounding them up. You won't need to be keeping checks on them. They will just leave.
You don't need to be shooting them either.
You don't need to be shooting them either.
Well, just to clarify what I was saying there, Britain was talking about more than 3K, and this Home Secretary has refused to rule out paying up to 30k for families to leave willingly as an incentive in a bid to save taxpayer money, apparently. There we go. Coming up in just a moment's time, the BBC, this is hilarious, is demanding an end to political appointments, but will it solve its woes? Of course, it's got a massive legal fight ahead of it, doesn't it, soon? This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, Late Edition.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Clear spells overnight for England and Wales, and we keep some sunshine in places during the day on Thursday, but tending to turn cloudier towards the north and the west as a weak weather front moves in, and that's going to turn things increasingly damp across parts of Northern Ireland and Western Scotland overnight. We've already got the thicker cloud and we've already got a few spots of rain, but the cloud will thicken and lower further, with those outbreaks of rain tending to be most persistent across western parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland as well. Spots of rain ahead of that, and we'll see a thickening of the cloud for West Wales and the far west of England. To the east, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast start the day with a chill in the air, a few mist and fog patches. But once those mist patches lift, plenty of sunshine once again through a large swathe of the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. Wales and the South West tending to see patchy cloud first thing, turning thicker through the morning and early afternoon. Northern England, patchy cloud here as well. Some bright spells sneaking through. Eastern Scotland mostly dry, but Western Scotland a damp start. Breezy with it as well. Northern Ireland also tending to see rain first thing. Mostly light, but some moderate bursts as well. Now the rain peels away from Western Scotland, a few showers following, and also a colder feel as the front slowly edges its way east and southeast. Rain appearing into West Wales and Cornwall by the afternoon, but ahead of that, 18, possibly 19 Celsius for the Midlands and the southeast. A cloudier day to come on Friday as this weather front lingers across many parts of England, Wales, eastern Scotland. Still some sunshine in the southeast, not feeling quite as warm. Certainly not feeling as warm for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although sunshine does tend to return. Into Saturday and Sunday, we've got that lingering cloud across many areas, but it will be mostly dry.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Should we talk about this interesting little article we've spotted in The Guardian, the front page of The Guardian here? Now, the BBC, of course, they've been in a lot of hot water over the last year. The bottom right-hand corner, this little black box you can see on your screens there, it says, BBC demands end to political appointments. Corporation also calls for a permanent charter in official response to renewal talks. Now, of course, a bit of the background of this is I think there's two major things. One, they are talking about the BBC licence at the moment. Two, Donald Trump is suing the BBC, which is, of course, a big part of everything that's going on here. And three, we're all trying to think of ways to make the BBC more sustainable and not have a licence fee. That seems to be the government's goal. Nina, do you think we should drop the political appointments as part of the BBC's remit?
Yes, absolutely. What have politicians got to do with it? They shouldn't be meddling in it. It shouldn't be. What we want is grown-up broadcasters, people who have experience in broadcasting, in business, in how to run a massive company, people who are deemed to be or have experience that will pertain to running the BBC. And to have somebody kind of shoved into a hot seat who is there for a political purpose is completely wrong.
I can't remember who was the last director of the BBC. Can anyone remember?
Tim Davey.
Thank you very much, Tim Davey.
But he's still there, isn't he?
I think he's
still
waiting to hand over.
Yeah,
He's in a transition period, is what I was trying to say.
Serving his notice.
Mark, the only thing I have on this, and I think Nina was right, I do agree, I don't think the BBC should have someone political. However, Davey wasn't exactly a left-leaning... He was a Tory lord, right?
Yeah.
And... You know, a lot of the decisions, people will say, well, a lot of the things that have been critical of them are perhaps left-wing related. I don't know how to frame this properly, but you know what I'm trying to say with Trump, with the festival, with the guy calling...
The Gaza documentary.
These aren't things that you'd expect from a right-leaning director general.
Well, I mean, Tim Davey, I think insofar as he has any politics, he's slightly on the Conservative side. But the problem we see at the BBC is birds of a feather flock together, and overwhelmingly they're of a leftist view. It's not a conspiracy, it's a mindset. right? It's a kind of hive mind. I think what's at issue here about ending political appointments is about the board of the BBC, right? So this isn't let's get in people who can make good programmes. Those are staff appointments, OK? Or who's the head of news, that's an appointment for a staff member. The question is whether you want the board to pretend it's non-political. And a lot of this hinges on, some viewers might remember when Tim Davie quit, along with Deborah Turness, the head of news, a lot of blame was put at the feet of Robbie Gibb, who's considered to be a right-of-centre person. He's a friend of mine, very reasonable man in my view, but I would say that. Now, so the whole issue was, well, Theresa May shouldn't be... He had been Theresa May's Director of Communications. Now, I actually want the board to have political balance. Its job is to make sure the BBC is reasonably balanced. It's not to really get involved in what sort of programmes should we make or who's. And I think for that you probably want a splattering of people of the right, of the left, and the centre, and that requires political appointments. If you pretend that's not going to be political, and everybody on the board is absolutely neutrally objective and independent, you will actually get people, even if they are not partisan, of a particular mindset. And I think I actually want conflict on that board between people of different political persuasions, and you get that by allowing political appointments, not by ending them.
Can I ask you a question? Who appointed Robbie Gibb?
I think it was Theresa May. I think it was.
Was it Theresa May or was it Boris Johnson?
I can't remember, but I accept that he's a sort of he is a Conservative appointment, but that's fine.
But I think that is the government meddling.
And I will say this, and the thing is, it is a state broadcaster for those intents and purposes, therefore that's the problem, and I think you should detach the BBC from the state. I don't like state propaganda. I know that they would argue that they're not, but I don't think you can ever be objective while you're essentially at the mercy of a political government, which is what government is, Steve. And I also don't believe that there is such thing as a neutral person. Everyone's got a bias in politics.
I suppose, but I mean, people say that, you're right, no one is truly neutral in their heart, but people have the ability to be objective in their work. That's what the people in the news departments would do. The news departments here have the ability to do that. And so at least if you have that goal, that's something you can do with it. One of the big complaints about the BBC is that it's so linked to the government, and shouldn't be. And the reason we have this weird system of funding is to try and... You can't just have the politicians in charge of how much money they get, because look at the control they then have over the state broadcaster. The more you can do to separate the broadcaster from the state, the better it will be. I love the idea of having that goal of a balanced political array on the board, but how would you do it? What do you do? Then you look at the voting in the last election to work out how many reforms you'd have versus how many Greens you'd suddenly have to get in. It's difficult unless you just come up with some sort of left versus right, and that doesn't really define our politics properly these days. So I love the goal. I think it's probably undeliverable.
Yeah, I just feel
we manage it for, say, House of Lords appointments generally.
Not very well, though.
Not very well. But you get, I mean, you might say they appoint the wrong people, but you get a kind of party balance. So you'd have something like, you know, the government appoints 2 people, or 3 people, the main opposition party 2, and 1 for the next largest party and share of the vote.
So you end up having a massive board to try and get anywhere near enough data to represent the kind of policy.
Six or so political appointments.
Surely the answer to this problem is that if the BBC was capital-driven, if it had to make a profit, then the people would vote with their feet. And if they didn't like what they watched, people would switch it off, right? We have to survive commercially, right? And if people don't like it, they're going to turn us off. That, to me, is the only way businesses should work, but maybe that's because I'm a small C conservative.
No, you're absolutely right, Alan. In my view, the first best solution is the licence fee becomes a voluntary subscription, and if you don't pay it, it's just like not paying for a sports channel or anything else, it will be switched off. That's my first best solution. If we, however, have got the licence fee system, then my second best solution is that you're honest about having some balanced politics at board level.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think that if you let people pay for the service, then actually programming gets better, and I think they'll make loads of money. Actually,
I don't think programming does get better. Actually, if you look at ITV, if you just take a simple equation of like some performer who's been at the BBC for ages and then gets a contract with ITV, it just always just dumbs down. The BBC for you know, and God knows there are many things wrong with the BBC, and it makes me furious when there are things like what happened at BAFTA the other week. I mean, that's just sheer amateur nonsense. It's not run by grown-ups. But having said that, the BBC does have a standard of excellence still in many departments, and it's not just television. In radio, they do stuff that other people just can't.
Bottle it and sell it then.
But they skew the market, don't they? Because the reason they can do this excellence is because of how they're funded. The reason ITV is not what it was 10 years ago, it's not got the money it had 10 years ago.
Well, they have even less. Because if the BBC becomes competitive for advertising, then ITV will go down.
But until it levels off, though, because they can spend millions on a show that you really can't replicate that in the commercial sector. And then eventually, if the BBC becomes more commercial, it stops having that money to spend on.
Well, see, the thing is, right, is that people are on a much bigger scale every year stopping paying their licence fees. Yeah. And actually, that's because I think some of the programming, some of the things like Doctor Who, which people love, has actually just been a taste. It's changed completely to be quite woke, which is what people would describe it as. I don't know if that's the right characterisation. But people haven't watched it and they're switching off from that, which actually, if you were a commercial, production team, you would can that and you would change it. But anyway, look, we could talk all day about the BBC. Thankfully, we're not there. Hey. Anyway, listen, we're going to talk about the I-paper coming up in just a second. The war zone widens as the United States sub torpedoes a warship off of Sri Lanka. And we'll also take another look at those tone-deaf MPs dancing today, because maybe it was the news, they're going to get a pay rise. This is Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Storm Regina's bringing further unsettled weather to parts of Spain throughout this week. It's also fairly unsettled in the Canary Islands. Risk of rain for Tenerife throughout much of this week. But here's Storm Regina bringing heavy bursts of rain to eastern areas of Spain through Wednesday and Thursday. It does look to remain unsettled here into the weekend too. But for the Mediterranean, plenty of clear sunshine. It's quite warm here as well into the weekend. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Should we go straight to the iPaper? Because, of course, we are at a time of war, aren't we? We're at a time of war, and this war seems to expand and get bigger every day at the moment. Of course, just over the last few days, we've seen the UAE, Oman, countless other countries, Saudi Arabia dragged into it. Now, the United States has sunk an Iranian warship off of the coast of Sri Lanka. Steve, are we starting to see the start of an escalating global war, or am I just being a bit hyperbolic?
I think we've already seen the start of the escalation geographically when Iran was decided to just attack anyone.
Yeah.
Kind of who's attacked us? When you kind of discombobulated during a bar fight, it felt like you were just throwing punches. That was the big escalation. It's not really an escalation to sink. Just because the warship was in a different water, you're still attacking the main country.
Sure.
So that bit I don't think is really...
I'm sure it's an international water, so I would have thought. But, of course, Cyprus has been drawn into it now. Greece is sending battleships. France is sending battleships. We're sending battleships. Iran's got a new Ayatollah. The second oldest son of Khomeini has now been seemingly verified.
Yeah, I wouldn't sell him a life insurance policy.
Neither would I.
No, but apparently his wife and daughter were killed as well. So that's his father, wife and daughter. So he's going to be really... not a very happy man.
Yeah.
And, no, it does seem to be escalating beyond. And the thing is, with America so gung-ho, who knows where it can go? I mean,
I understand this is the first warship sunk by a submarine since the Belgrano.
Wow, really?
So there you go, a little bit of trivia there.
I don't think people realise that Iran's military capabilities are very sophisticated compared to, let's say, I know that Iran wouldn't have a navy, for example, but, it does show that actually Iran has a lot in that way of things, at least.
They're a serious player.
I know that it's not taken very long to remove them from the chess pieces, so to speak, but no one can versus America. It was never going to be just as simple as bombing a couple of sites, and that was over.
No, of course, but there is now a question of when effectively they run out of ammo.
Yes.
I don't know when that point is.
Saying
but,
soon, aren't they?
But a few days, they're saying that they can't keep firing off at this rate. They will just run out. Now, whether that just then brings things to some sort of close, because as Steve was saying, they're just swinging, both arms in a bar fight or just spraying bullets around, but they are going to run out of bullets before too long.
Yeah, just saw this comment come into your say. Carl M says Starmer has deployed HMS Dragon to Cyprus, but we all know it will make a U-turn before it reaches Portugal.
He likes the U-turns.
Yeah. But this is, I guess the thing is that we're kind of irrelevant now, aren't we? We're an irrelevant party in all of this, for better or worse. There's many people arguing with me on the right and the left. I'm pro removing this regime, but there's some other people who are saying, actually, Alex, we should be completely avoiding this war whatsoever. Shouldn't get involved in it, and I totally sympathise with that. There's been too many bad foreign wars. However, I just think this regime is evil, and it's creating a lot of problems around our country and our world.
We miss a lot of detail when we just say the word Iran, because actually I think the reason why there's such a broad church of support is because if you support the people of Iran, you support getting rid of the leadership.
Yeah.
So it's not just there's a country you hate, you want it to be attacked. Very much the opposite. If you support those people, you don't want to see them oppressed and thrown in the backs of vans and beaten up and killed for not wearing the right outfits. So, yeah, I think, I don't know what we could do to be involved, but if it was simply having our bases used, it doesn't seem like that much of a request, and it would have been nice to be involved.
We've also heard today, there's been, I know we put out a breaking alert on this, that the Kurds have been armed. This is a report, so it was on GBNews.com earlier on today, Nina, and that perhaps that could be the next phase now, is that actually not the Americans or the Israelis, but the Kurds going in to start an uprising.
The Kurds on the Iraq border are purported to have been armed by the US. But, how many are there of them? How big is the faction? How sophisticated are they? If they're just there to sort of, continue some more fighting, but they cannot be. There cannot be as many of them as the Iranians have got.
Yeah.
There's not just the Revolutionary Guard; it's the actual army. There's about 400,000 in the army. Full stop.
Yeah. Okay.
The interesting thing is historically, it's been nearly impossible to bring about regime change without boots on the ground, hasn't it? Now, maybe this will be the exception that proves the rule, because the intelligence is so incredible, the precision of the air war is so incredible. We're in a different world to the one we were in 1945, say. Nevertheless, the history books would show that if you want regime change, you need to put boots on the ground, and that would be a massive escalation.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I don't want us to do that. Anyway, look, while the Middle East is literally burning, don't worry, because our great MPs are totally all over this.
Here we go, we're going to turn. Human drinks.
I mean, it's completely ridiculous, isn't it, Steve? I mean, that's my opinion.
It's bad optics. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You know,
it's
if these people were sat in Parliament actually doing their jobs, imagine the damage they could cause. So it's good to keep them busy.
Welcome distraction.
Yeah. What do you think, Mark?
It's a terrible look. Those MPs should hang their head in shame. Any press officer who advised them to do that should hang their head in shame as well. It just looks terrible.
As I said on the earlier show, it could have been in their lunch hour. It's to promote health and wellness and well-being. And I love Strictly, so I'm all for it.
All right, there we go. A nice diverse opinion here on the panel. As ever, should we go through your headlines one more time, shall we? Let's start with the Metro. Trump's war goes global. Mirror. MP, I've never suspected my husband. The Daily Express. Weak. Of course, striking image of Kemi Badenoch on the front there. The Sun. Greek cops wanted 50k Maguire bribe. The Daily Mail. Labour ensnared in China spy probe. The Times, allies round on weak. UK, yeah, that's one of the more damning headlines, I think, today. The Telegraph, this was a good one. Miliband led revolt to Trump's war in Iran. Very good. The Guardian, at least 87 dead as US sinks Iranian ship near Sri Lanka. The iPaper, war zone widens as US sub torpedoes warship off Sri Lanka. Listen, thanks all for joining me tonight. I'm going to be back with you tomorrow. And we were talking about the morning protesters, the students that are going to march through London this weekend. Well, I'm going to go and join them. I'm going to have some cameras with me. So shameless pitch from my show on Saturday. Come and join me at 9 o'clock if you fancy seeing what they get up to. But up next, it's The Late Show Live with Ben Leo.
Surprise, it's me. It's not Ben. Ben's actually going to do the third hour tonight, but I'm up for the first two with you until 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 5 days old, this war. And it feels longer than that, doesn't it? But I'm sure it feels longer than that if you're in one of the countries that are currently receiving bombs. So we're not complaining about it, but there is a huge amount to talk about it. There was a very fiery briefing room encounter in the White House today. I'll tell you all about it in a minute.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
the #1 news channel in the country.
Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America tonight.
Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15.
Operation Epic Fury continues to take flight as the White House vows to take complete and total dominance of Iranian airspace, also tonight.
Iran does pose an imminent and direct threat to the United States of America based on the fact that they are the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Britain's strategic base in Cyprus is relying on allies for protection as HMS Dragon is left sitting in Portsmouth. That's right. Plus. Breaking tonight, there are reports that thousands of Iraqi Kurds have just launched a ground invasion in Iran as they aim to topple the Islamic Republic's regime. Also tonight.
But the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now.
The countdown is on until American stealth bombers land at British bases to join the attacks on Iran, as both President Trump and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that the big one is still to come. But will it be tonight? I'm Bev Turner. This is a special extended edition of The Late Show Live. And given that this war might go on for a long time, I better learn to say the word strategic without falling over it, fellas. I don't know about you, that was a great start. With me in Washington this evening, the Executive Director of Unleash Prosperity, Tim Doscher, and Democratic strategist, Richard Goodstein. Strategist.
You got it.
Got it that time, right. And in London, political commentator Charlie Rowley is with us. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us. So it is the main story again tonight, and may remain this way for, well, who knows how long. But tonight, thousands of Iraqi Kurds, we understand, have launched a major ground invasion in Iran as they push to topple the Islamic Republic's regime. Now, both America and Israel are thought to have been smuggling weapons to Kurdish volunteers since last year. Meanwhile, American B-2 stealth bombers are expected to land at British military bases in a matter of days to join attacks on Iran, as the White House warns that the biggest hits are yet to come.
But Britain's airbase in Cyprus is yet again being left to be protected by our European allies. The Royal Navy's guided missile destroyer HMS Dragon is breathing no fire. It is not expected to reach Cyprus for 2 weeks. And earlier, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer tore in to President Trump.
What I was not prepared to do on Saturday was for the UK to join a war unless I was satisfied there was a lawful basis and a viable, thought-through plan. That remains my position.
The relationship between those two is becoming increasingly fascinating and potentially problematic, of course, for the UK. Let's go live to the White House and speak to GB News' chief US correspondent, Ben Leo, who has come straight back from a week's annual leave, Ben, straight into the White House, straight into the Lion's Den, because it was quite a fiery briefing today, wasn't it, with Caroline Levitt? Tell us what happened.
Yes, it was the first press briefing since the conflict was launched on Saturday. It was the first time the world's media, including us here at GB News, had the chance to stick our hand up and try and get a question from Trump's press secretary, Caroline Levitt. It was a packed briefing room, and boy, oh boy, although it's been a grey and miserable day here in Washington, D.C., there were certainly fireworks inside there. Levitt was pressed on all sorts of matters relating to Iran, particularly as well, not least the bombing of the Iranian primary school on the first or the second day of the conflict, where, I mean, it's a tragic story, but dozens and dozens of young school children were killed. Israel and the US were initially blamed for that. Then there was some rhetoric that maybe it was the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who had a missile that went awry. Caroline Levitt snapping back at the reporter, saying that the Americans would never target civilian sites, and the Department for War was investigating that particular incident. But elsewhere also talks about how the war would end. President Trump